A lot of people are talking about the superinflation that we're suffering in the United States, about how prices are going way up and how, everything is going to hell because we have massive inflation in the country. What they're not talking about is they're not talking about the role that Black Lives Matter played in this inflation. There is something called supply and demand. Whether you're working under a communist system, as Marx pointed out in Das Kapital. And I'm not a big fan of Marx, as I keep saying, but it's kind of ridiculous when I keep having to go back to Marx. But Marx pointed this out in Das Kapital. Actually, the dude Yoshanka show, he pointed it out because the price of candy went way down in the USSR. So people would buy it up, so it would disappear because the supply was good. Okay? When you can put out a lot of something, it's not worth as much. Now, how did BLM cause a problem with supply? Okay? Well, during the riots that have been going on now for, 2 years almost, BLM has destroyed through arson and just plain destruction, as well as theft, and as well as just plain destroying Amazon trucks and retail stores and everything else, and stealing the property of these stores. And I honestly think this is one of the reasons that a lot of retail chains like Amazon and others supported BLM, is because through this problem caused by BLM, it made the price of everything artificially go way up. Okay? Now, BLM is not the only problem, of course. Trump pouring trillions of dollars into the economy, giving it to the super rich, devalued the US dollar. As we know, this is a common problem. The Germans did this in World War II. They dumped fake pounds over Britain to devalue the British pound. This is not uncommon to see this happen, but I mean, Trump is also responsible for this. But if you think about it, people weren't buying as much during the pandemic. There were some things that they were buying artificially, which caused artificial inflation in them, like toilet paper and things like that. But if you remember, in the beginning of the pandemic, it was actually pretty cool. The planet started healing itself from all the pollution. It seemed like things were, like the environment was starting to heal. Of course, as I made in my other video about how BLM is a natural disaster, or a disaster to nature, I should say, with all of the arson, anything that happened that was good for the environment, with the lack of traffic and things of that nature, was completely reversed when BLM started setting fire to everything. I mean, that one auto zone that went up with all the oil and, petroleum products in there, that kind of did away with that was probably like 1 million cars worth of garbage that was burning in there. Okay? And that was one of the first things they set on fire in Minneapolis. Now, this is the problem. This is what people aren't understanding. This is causing the superinflation, because the supply is shortened. There's less supply, so there's more demand for a lot of things. And this is what nobody's talking about, and I'm getting real tired of it, because everybody, like, I'm watching a lot of these frugal channels and things like that, and they're all like, I don't know what's causing this magical hike in prices. Oh my goodness, these magical hikes. They're not magical. They're the direct result of people destroying people's personal and public property. And even though Trump poured trillions of dollars into the economy through his idiotic programs that he where he gave the airports and all these other industries lots of money to keep them from collapsing, which, by the way, is anti-capitalist. So all the so-called capitalists supporting Trump, think about how stupid that is. Okay, consider this. What happens in a truly capitalist idea? Okay, an airport fails, like Trump Airlines failed. Okay, so an airport fails. what then happens to that airport? Well, nothing, really. The airport is still there. The planes are still there. So another company will move in and purchase that airport and be more competitive. That's the heart of capitalism. Okay? I'm not a capitalist, though I do believe in a mixed system, and I've gotten into that in previous videos, and I'll get into that maybe later in this video. Actually, I will. I'll get into it right now. Now, the Venus Project, which is a genius idea, one of the things that the founder of that promotes is automating as much as possible to increase the supply, to bring down the price and bring down the demand. We can fully automate food production. It's been done. We can fully automate probably automobile manufacture. We can fully automate a lot of things. Or if we can't fully automate a whole field, we can fully automate most of it and reduce the risk to humans performing the work and to liberate humans from labor. This is the truth. Okay, this is not amazing. In China, they've 3D printed whole homes with cement. We could do that here also, and there's better ways to construct sturdier buildings. Like the ancient Romans used concrete forms. It's a lot easier to build a wall with a concrete form than block by 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 block. It's also a hell of a lot stronger when you use a concrete form. Okay, when you use reinforced concrete as opposed to bricks or blocks, you have a stronger structure. Doesn't take a genius to figure this out. I'm no engineer, but I'm pretty sure that if you check it out, I'm 100% right. Ancient Rome was built mostly with cement forms, okay, which worked very well to create a very powerful structure. Many powerful structures, okay? My point is that BLM has caused a greater demand because they've destroyed or stolen the supply. Another thing BLM did in Philadelphia, they were stealing the money out of the ATM machines. Now that money didn't disappear, that money's still in circulation, so that money is actively devaluing the money that is in circulation, the legal money that's in circulation. So you see that. And the thing is, what I love is these crypto idiots. I can't get enough of these people. You know what? I'm going to put a link to a video by a chick that used to be my favorite connection on LinkedIn until I got thrown off of LinkedIn. She's a former Fox News producer named Lilia Yudina. And she did a bit on Bitcoin back when she was in college. And I'm going to leave a link to that in the description. But Bitcoin is the ultimate fiat money. And I find it hilarious that Bitcoin is being embraced by conservatives that used to be all about the gold standard and how money needs to be backed by stuff. Fiat money is backed by stuff. Fiat money is backed by the material production of a country. Okay, so fiat money is backed by something, but it is also play money to a large extent because it's based in speculation. My point is, if you go back to the concepts of supply and demand, we have an issue because the supply has been destroyed, stolen, or so when it's stolen, it's just disappeared. This is why shoplifting is bad for stores like Walmart. When people shoplift, it causes Walmart to have to charge you more. So your friend that shoplifts is really a douchebag, okay? And that's who are they hurting? They're hurting you, the consumer, because the store doesn't want to lose the profit, so they're going to hike the price, okay? So that's what you need to understand. It does all boil down to supply and demand. Whether you're working in a completely socialist form of governance, in a completely socialist economy, or a completely capitalistic economy, supply and demand is what basically runs how much things are. That's why in the United States, everything used to be relative prior to Walmart. Now, it's not so much anymore. Last time I went down to a place called Bainbridge, Georgia. And Bainbridge, Georgia is roughly the same price as it costs to live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, so supply and demand, because the supply has been spread and the demand has been spread, and certain things are artificially raised, like property values and things like that, really all across the United States, it's almost, I would say, universal with the cost of living. And people go, no, it's not, because ultimately, more or less, medicine, food, shelter, electric, these things are universally the same price across the United States right now. So the whole United States is feeling the pinch because we have what's called stagflation. The price of everything has gone up, but people are not necessarily making more money. Interestingly enough, companies like Walmart and Amazon have come to the rescue by raising the amount of money that they're paying their employees, such as overnight stockers and Amazon. They're paying quite a bit, and bonuses if you get hired. And no, this is not an advertisement for Amazon. But I think what people need to understand is this is not the fault of capitalism per se. It is the fault of the faulty nature and how easily capitalism collapses when hit with something. Like, what's funny, what cracked me up is during the coronavirus, the United States, if you looked at store shelves and they were flat out empty, our country, I don't know if anybody remembers going shopping during the height of the coronavirus, but you couldn't buy anything. So during the littlest nudge, our country started to look like what we were told communist countries looked like. Think about that. That's not what communist countries looked like, but that's what we were told in the United States. That's what it was like living in a communist country. Think about that. The fragility of capitalism really showed itself during the height of this pandemic. What's also fragile is the fragility of how we govern in this country. I kept constantly telling Donald Trump, declare martial law, declare martial law. You need to declare martial law. I'm still saying it. If I was on Twitter, I'd still be saying it to Biden. Martial law needs to be declared. And these pockets of insurrectionists all throughout the country need to be brought under the iron hand of martial law. And then after there is order, that, like the Civil War, that's basically what we're living through now, is a civil war without declared sides. But once you bring everything under the iron hand of the government, then you can go back to the United States the way it was. We already dealt with this during the Civil War. Okay? It's not, it's not anything we haven't seen before. We've dealt with these things during the Spanish flu pandemic. We dealt with these things during the Great Depression. We've dealt with these things during the Civil War. And thanks to technology, we are not suffering as bad as our ancestors. But the fact of the matter is the fact of the matter. Ultimately, the weakness of capitalism showed itself because the lack of central planning, the lack of the ability of the federal government to act. And it's not like they don't have the right to act. They have plenty of right to act. They have the ability to act. They just chose not to act. But you have that. You have the problems with the federal government not acting under Trump and under Biden. Okay, neither one acted. You have a need for masks to prevent the spread of the virus. Regardless of what idiots say, masks work. Neither Trump nor Biden, and Biden said he would, implemented the Defense Production Act to basically make more N95s. You don't need the crap masks. You can't wear a bandana and expect it to work. It does not work like an N95. So the federal government should get to producing those. And then you have this nonsense, and I'm not going to get into the vaccine too much, but I think it's premature to tell people that they don't have to mask after getting the vaccine, especially when you have people contracting the virus after being fully vaccinated. I think that you need to take into consideration that being vaccinated is not necessarily preventing people from getting the virus or spreading the virus. I think that goes without saying. And I also think more needs to be done to promote the use of the nutraceuticals that we know help to control the severity of COVID-19. That's my view. None of this is being done. Okay? Take that into consideration. So the fragility of capitalism showed itself. The fragility of our pandering to terrorists like BLM shows itself. The fact that our whole country has been thrown up in the air because rioters have destroyed the supply and the demand has gone up. That's the reality of the situation. Prices aren't just going up because Trump poured trillions of dollars into the economy like an idiot. Okay, the prices are also going up because of the lack of supply and the greater demand. And that's all for this video.